Oh my god, I'm kind of getting the feels right now. This is too real. It's too real. Oh, it's too real. Stop it. I think it's good. I'm really enjoying it. I like it. All right, moving on.
Welcome to Bread of the Wild.
Brett. Ted, fix it. Make it say Brett of the Wild. Welcome, gamers, to Super Beard Bowl Season 2. Each month, we're doing an all-new 8-episode series complete with a beginning and an end, as voted on by you, our loyal viewers. Without paying a single penny, everyone who watches will be able to vote on one of 4 show ideas, and once you narrow it down from 4 to 2, the Beard Bowl Patreon tier will then choose between the top 2 for which show gets made into a full 8-episode series. This month, the winning series is Beard Bros Movie Reviews. Brett, Jirard, and Alex watch and review movies that you guys thought they might enjoy. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. The next public vote is live this week, so click on the description if you want to be part of the bowl. So until then, just sit back, relax, and enjoy another incredible episode of Super Beard Bowl.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beard Bros Movie Reviews. Today we're taking a look at an all-time classic, Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Do you believe that? Do you think of this as an all-time classic?
Oh yeah,
I think for our generation, it's a classic.
Yeah,
I feel like everybody knows it. Yeah,
it's one of the few films that I have an immediate memory and connection with just based on one sound, and that sound is wee 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 wee, like that specific sound. Immediately I know it's Kung Pao to the Fist.
I mean, it's very unique. I don't think anything in nature makes that sound.
It's true.
No,
like sirens maybe, but that's man-made. You know,
probably like some like puma like shrieking in the woods at night. But
for those of you who don't know, Kung Pao Enter the Fist is it's a comedy.
Oh,
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, man, it's such a weird thing, dude.
It's from 2002, and it's kind of, I like to think of this movie as like a cinematic remix.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes the majority of its footage is from a genuine like kung fu film called, I think, Tiger and Crane Fists from 1976.
Like,
I want to say.
It's like a classic like Hong Kong low budget martial arts action film, basically,
like a legitimate one, from a Tiger and Crane Fist, I think from 1976, and this dude named Steve Oedekerk, who wrote and directed Kung Pao in 2002. That's when this movie was released. Like, basically took all the footage from that, inserted himself digitally with green screen and everything.
Steve Oedekerk is the same gentleman from all the Adam Sandler movies, right?
No. So this guy. So who this guy is? When I was a kid, the reason that I wanted to see this movie, and you can kind of see it from Tonguey or whatever, is that I always thought of him as the thumb guy, right? Those like cartoons where it's
Thumb Wars and shit.
Yeah, Thumb Wars, and it's like the thumbs talk and stuff like that. But this time when I watched it, I actually looked up Steve Oedekerk, and I found out that this is like an episode of Movie Detectives, because number one, this movie is almost like if like a middle schooler got to write a movie. Like, this is like the pacing and humor. Like, if I tried to write a sketch with 3 of my dumb fucking friends in 8th grade or 7th grade, this is like.
Let's be honest here. Like, I would say a high schooler maybe. If a middle schooler did this, they're like, you're like a funny middle schooler. Like, you get it.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
But there's shit in here that is nonsensical. Even in the way where you're just why did they say that? It's not even a joke. It's just a weird thing. It feels like a weird improv scene that a kid would do. But Steve
real.
Oedekerk, it turns out, is like, he wrote the Ace Ventura movies. He directed When Nature Calls. He directed Patch Adams, or so he wrote Patch Adams. He's like,
a lot of people don't know that Oedekerk is as prolific as he is.
Yeah, he's such a like important part of like so many people. He did the Clumps. He did the Nutty Professor. He wrote those. He wrote Bruce Almighty.
Didn't he do this one movie that like I only know because like it was one of those movies that I rented from Blockbuster or some equivalent, and I held on to. Yeah, I held on to it so long.
I don't know what that
it just
movie
became mine. I think it's called. It's not Nothing But Trouble. It's not Whatever Can Go Wrong Will Go Wrong or some shit. It stars Tim Robbins. It's like a buddy comedy with Tim Robbins and Martin Lawrence. I think he did that too.
It's him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. It has that like stupid ass energy. But I feel the thing that's knowing that now, right? Going back and watching this again, which I definitely like laughed at this movie a lot as I was watching it, just because of how like truly unfiltered and stupid it actually is. Like,
yeah, it feels like someone was like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and you're like, that's funny. Okay, sure, go ahead.
I could literally like smell the folder that this was written on the outside of. Like literally, I could like it's there. But like looking at the way that this guy acts, looking at the way this guy talks. Because he also voices, because the thing that's weird about this movie is that because the original movie is like a dub, right? It's like in Chinese.
Yeah.
And
I think we got ahead of ourselves. I think we still need to explain to people who haven't seen this movie like what it is. Like,
yeah, literally he inserts himself and then himself says weird things with his mouth so that he not only is dubbing over his own voice, but basically everyone except for one girl who is like not even the main love interest is him. With doing like different weird voices, like mostly sounding like if all the characters are animated pigs.
Like if you put on a weird Chopsaki flick at your house with your bros, put it on mute, and you all just like dubbed over them. That is what this movie is. Except this guy did it by himself, and he did it pretty well.
Yeah,
like there's some, it's pretty funny. So like I said, this movie comes across as like. It feels like like something that doesn't really happen in movies a lot. It feels like a remix of a movie, but not just any remix. It's a remix that like, you know how sometimes songs get remixed, but the genre completely changes and the mood changes. Like if you take a ballad and all of a sudden make it like a fucking dance hit, right?
Yeah.
Like where they take like fucking, Claire de Lune, but they make it a fucking rave hit. So it's the same way where like, I guarantee you Tiger and Crane Fist was a very genuine, kung fu flick, and this guy just completely fucking turns it into a comedy.
It's nonsense.
Rips it apart.
And look, it's remarkable in its own way. It's like a $10 million movie from like the 2000s that like made its money back and more.
Is that real? Is that a real number?
Yeah, it cost
the
$10 million.
budget was 10 mil. Wow, how much did it make?
17.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think he's making another one. I think I remember him saying.
Shut the fuck up. Fuck you. Listen, I've been waiting for that sequel for like, I remember I saw it in high school the first time. Yeah. And for years after that, probably 3 years, I'm like, are they making a sequel? Like, and I didn't do that because like they said it, so they're making it. Like, there's a gag in the film a couple of times where they're like, yeah, we'll see. Like, we're making another one.
She's like, the woman.
It's very funny.
The woman's like, I need to be in the sequel.
I want to be alive so I can be in the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's very self-aware. The whole movie is very self-aware. But and it's not like I think I thought there was a sequel just because of those gags. I thought there was going to be a sequel because I figured the movie did somewhat successfully. So are you making a bit right now, like about there being a sequel? Or are you?
He announced it several years ago, and I think he like tried to kickstart it or something. But
it's vaporware. So what's the cinema version of vaporware?
Production limbo or whatever it's called.
Yeah, production hell. Right.
Yeah. But real talk, like this movie. Okay, this is this is a type of movie that like I'm glad we're doing in this series because there is no value to this movie narratively at all. Like to me, this movie is like just dumb fucking shit. The story doesn't even really make sense at all.
No,
like,
of course not.
It's also like it's elephant in the room, pretty racially insensitive. You know what I mean? Like
at times, yeah.
Like it's unavoidable, right? But the thing that's like funny about this movie is just if you take any slice of it, like the jokes per minute is so high that just like it's funny to watch it in any order. You can watch these scenes in any order, and there's
no plot.
Yeah, if you find these gags funny, like some of them hit, some of them don't, but there's so fucking many that it just doesn't matter. And like eventually he'll wear you down with like a joke he repeats. Like I hated that the guy's name was Betty. I like hate that, right? At the beginning I was like, that's so dumb.
Why do you hate that?
I was just like, no, you can't just name him Betty because it's like a funny name. I was like, fuck you, no. And by the end, whenever they're like Betty, or somebody calls him Sally, and he's like, it's Betty, I'm like, fuck you. By the end, I'm so mad at the joke that I'm laughing at the joke.
You know what got me with the Betty bit was that one shot with the name tag. That's when I was like, when it just like you just see suddenly Betty just creeping up in the frame with a name tag. That fucked me up.
I don't know
I agree with you though, like in that this film very clearly comes across to me as a passion project.
Yes.
And not just a passion project, but something that but you know, you established that this dude Oedekerk is pretty prolific. This isn't his only work.
He's got respect.
This isn't like
millions.
his one thing that he made and he's done. He's made a lot of shit, but it's very clear to me, like I believe at least, that this is one of the projects at least that he's made that he's like, no, I've had this in my back pocket as something I've wanted to do for years, and then he finally got the chance to do it.
He was
it's very
nominated
clear
for an
that
Oscar.
this guy is like, it's very clear that he like likes these types of films and like reveres them, and like wanted to play in that sandbox, and he finally got the chance to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just feels like an idea he had when he was like a kid that he just like knew one day he was gonna do, and then finally he was like, I'm gonna fucking do this shit. Give me like a nice microphone and a copy and the rights to Tiger and Crane Fists or whatever. Like, but that's exactly what I mean. Is like there is value to this movie. Like I think it's interesting to look at this because like it is funny and I did have a good time watching it. But like, God, it's so sucky, right? Like as a movie, like 90 minutes of this maybe isn't the best way for me to watch this or not, or maybe it is. But like, it's funny that this movie, it has such a cult classic status to me, even though by like all accounts it is just like pretty bad because it's such a type of movie. There's so many movies that are like this movie in my like repertoire of movies that I like to watch more than once, but I don't know how to describe, like I don't know what that experience is. Like I don't know what the common factors are because you kind of just have to like it.
This movie reminds you of some other movies, but you don't know why.
Like there's a lot of movies that come to mind like this, like a lot of like Will Ferrell movies where it's just like him in an outfit being silly, like where I'm just like, this is hilarious, but this movie sucks, but I love watching this movie because it makes me feel good. Like that's how I feel here. Like it's so dumb that like there's like a cow fight scene, like it has nothing to do with anything. But
I can see the parallels that you're drawing, and I don't think there's anything wrong. Like you know, we've already established that this film basically has no plot. It basically has no character development. But I don't believe in good or bad movies. I believe in like either you like the movie or you don't.
Yeah.
And I've always liked this movie. And even though it doesn't have those couple things I mentioned, things that I value a whole lot, it's got enough of other shit that I still like this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like there's something to be said about movies like this, and I feel like a lot of the time, especially movies like this, just kind of get sort of written off. Like the comedy genre, for some reason, like even up to today, is like all of them are just sort of lumped in together. Like anything with jokes, and it's so telling that like the Golden Globes, it's like best musical or comedy. You know what I mean? Like it's like sort of like, here's like drama, here's like this type of movie, here's this, and then like all comedies are in the same. And I feel like this movie, and if you take another movie, like one of my other, like this is not one of my favorite comedies, but like if you take one of my favorite comedies like Superbad or Dazed and Confused, and you compare it to a movie like this, there's really almost nothing between them that's common other than that they have jokes.
They're trying to make you laugh.
Yeah. And so I don't know, like I think it's fun to talk about a movie like this because of how specific of a feeling it is for me, this type of movie. I really enjoy that about this. I never would have watched this again. Like I would have never sat down and watched this beginning to end.
For me, this movie is if I need something on in the background, I'll just throw this on anytime, for sure. I'll agree with you that, like, it's hard. I don't imagine myself putting this movie on to give my 100% attention
like turning the lights off, sitting down, watching it with a snack. I would never do that. Yeah.
But I don't think that has anything to do at this point with, like, the way the movie was made. I think probably a little bit, but mostly, like, I've just seen it too many fucking times. Like, I'll give you the perfect example. My favorite comedies of all time, at this point, it's very hard for me to do the same thing with them. And those are the fucking Cornetto trilogy. Okay. And the quality of those films, I think, is off the charts. I think those are some of the best films ever made. But once again, I can't watch those films. Or rather, I don't watch those films. I don't sit down and watch those films often just because I've seen them so fucking much.
It's like they're played out. Yeah, I get that.
Like, and it's the same thing for this movie with me. That being said, if I've got some, like, busy boo-boo work to do and I want to put someone in the background, if the Cornetto trilogy comes on and if Kung Pao comes on in the background, like, oh yeah, I'll just throw that on for sure.
I feel like I would be much more willing to watch, like, a beautiful Edgar Wright movie, like, well-made, great characters. I would sit down and watch it first before this movie, I think. And I don't know. It's not like a plus or a minus. It's just like those movies are more of like a linear movie-like story than something like this. But they're both equally valid as movies. I'm not trying to say that. It's just
sure.
It's just a strange thing. But yeah, I don't know.
I think one of the thing I hated the most, the thing I liked the most, are very drastic. Okay. The thing I hated the most, and what really dated the film, was the necessity to have the cow fight. Like, the cow fight was.
Yeah, go on. I just didn't expect you to say that.
Well, it's just because, like, I get that it's a comedy. I get that, like, there's dubs and stuff, but when the cow fight takes place, two things. One, like, the CGI is laughable, which is funny, and I think that's the point.
The baby's face, dude. The baby's face
was very funny. That was very funny.
Okay.
But I hated the fact that, like, it was they had, like, half the fight was a reference to the Matrix.
Sure.
Like, that just it was that era. It was that era where everyone just took, like, the film of the last 2 or 3 years that was making everyone talk and parody it, and I just that part was like, ugh.
Family Guy vibes.
Yeah, just like this is the lowest hanging fruit we have to kind of hit a home run with.
I wouldn't say that's the film's lowest hanging fruit, but I definitely see where you're coming from.
It's definitely the one that sticks out like a sore thumb to me, because I mean the whole point of this is the whole comedy aspect of it, right? Is dubbing and weaving an original narrative out of two films that don't belong together, and it's very funny to kind of see how that all, like, tacked out to play, and then, like, you have this scene with the don't go in the meadows is a funny bit, but then, like, when it's revealed to be a gigantic CGI cow that is also shooting udders in the style of the Matrix, it's like, all right, that's where I was like, I've had enough of this bit.
All right, so what did you like the most and why?
I think any time that they took Steve Oedekerk and blended him into the backgrounds, the best, just like they rotoscoped his face on another actors. They got him the same outfits, but the guy who stole the film for me every single time, no matter what took place, was the Asian dude with the boombox in the back, because that dude looked so well incorporated in every scene that he was in. I legit had to double take that he was in the shots with the music, and at the end when they show the credits and they show him dancing in the background, it just warmed my heart, because, like, it didn't matter what that guy did. His job was to dance with this boombox and have a good time, and they, like,
you were like, was he actually there in 1976? He might have been. No, I see him in the green screen. All right, good shit.
Well, because there are moments in the film where you're like, that's clearly green screen, that's clearly green screen, that's clearly green screen, but then when that guy appears, I'm like, I had to go, okay, hold on a sec. Like, I know he's not in the film. I just logically I know, but they did such a good job just making him feel naturally a part of the film that, like, it would just make me laugh every time I saw him. It's one of my favorite bits.
There's a lot of scenes where I start being like, oh, this is from the 70s, and then, like, he punches out that dude's stomach or whatever.
Right.
And you're just like, whoa, that was amazing.
Something that I kind of don't want to talk about fully, but I guess I want to, like, give you guys to think about, because I was made to think about it. is I don't know where it was, but very recently someone brought up this movie and in the same sentence also brought up the phrase cultural appropriation.
Okay.
And which is a phrase that is like, people are very sensitive about it, and it can bring up sensitive issues for people. Cultural appropriation for me is something that I don't understand fully. Like, I don't know if I've asked you guys about it. I may not have, but like I tend to ask a lot of people about it because I don't understand it and I want their opinion on it. Try and get a better idea of what it means. So let me make this clear to the comments. Please, like, we filmed this weeks ago. Please don't like talk about a bunch about cultural appropriation. Like, if you want to have a discussion, that's fine. But like, please don't be like, allow me to like give you the definition, because like
by the time you do it, it's already done.
Spoiler alert, every definition I've gotten from people has been vastly different. So, but I still think it's interesting to think about. And it's interesting to think about when it comes to this film. Because I was watching it with that eye, like, oh, okay, pretty interesting. You know what I mean? But I guess I just brought that up once again. Like, we're pretty much out of time already, so I don't like in that conversation would be like this probably. But I do want you guys to think about it, because I guess I'd like to talk to you guys about it off camera. And if you guys in the comments want to talk about it too, or like probably even better than talk about it, like ask questions about it. You know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with that.
By all means,
nothing wrong with asking questions.
I agree. But yeah, fucking Kung Pao, man.
Something something interesting to think about along those lines for me is like, okay, like there is the Chinese discipline of like many disciplines of Kung Fu out there, martial arts, Chinese martial arts. That's one layer. Then there's Hong Kong action movies from the 70s. That's one layer. And then there are the like shitty Western dubs and sort of like pirating of these movies that was done a lot of the times to make them more palatable to for Western audiences. So just, I don't know. I think that's a good jumping off point.
It's pretty multifaceted for sure.
I think it's a good jumping off point if you're going to have that discussion.
Yeah.
But in terms of things that like I think are really uniquely good about movies in this, like these ridiculous movies like this with like that are just completely all about premise and jokes, is that, you know, because they're not worrying about the plot, because they're not worrying about the characters, I'm not worrying about those things. And there's no other type of movie where you're going to get something like a 3.5 minute joke about beating a dead body with sticks. Or you're going to see something like Mushu Fasa, which is like the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
CNN.
Yeah. It feels like I'm just high. Like I don't even know but like the movie starts pretty much like a parody of Kung Fu movies. Like I would say 60% of the movie is that. But in the last act of that movie goes to crazy town. And I don't think that you would ever get a movie like this for more than $10 million and with more than a man who has been making movies like this for 20 years and like used all his influence to make something like this. And in that way, this is almost like his The Room or his like Wes Anderson style auteur movie. You know what I mean? Like, and it's interesting to think about stuff like that. Like, I think like this guy sees himself that way. I think like Zack Snyder sees himself that way. A lot of people who make movies that are like in some way noxious to people who like to like review films. And I think like, you know, there's something to be said for this type of craft. I think like the fact that I enjoy it and I'm thinking about it in this way and I'm having a good time with it. I feel like there is as much depth to something like this as there is to anything. And that's my final word on this movie.
I was with you to the final thing you said.
What?
I really enjoy this movie as well. I don't think it has as much depth as some other things.
I just mean that the art of making people laugh and doing jokes and like there's not just one way to tell jokes. It's as multifaceted of a thing as making people feel other feelings. That's all I'm saying. And I think movies like this sort of demonstrate that in a way for people. If you think about it.
I think as a kid, I hated this movie because of its like, I always viewed it as like a movie that just made noises and just like was like obnoxious, almost like a YouTube Let's Play video. And then after being older and taking a second look at it, I I was really surprised with how much I laughed. I didn't think I was going to like this.
Is this like the first time you've seen it in a long time?
Yes. I haven't seen this film since I was probably 13, 14 years old.
Yeah, I haven't
like
watched this since high school for sure.
Yeah.
I've not even I've watched a couple scenes from it. Like
I'm the
like
fucking
I said,
weirdo. I'm the fucking weirdo who watches this movie once every 3 years. I got
You're
it.
like a big kung fu guy though, like outside of just this movie, right? Like probably
Yeah,
more
but
so
I'm not watching this movie for kung fu. I'm watching this movie.
Right.
Fucking A, kung pao. Sick. I love it.
Best joke in the movie. Best joke in the movie. Go.
Oh man.
Best bit in the movie.
Give me like 15 seconds.
I'll go first because I have it queued up. The squirrel at the end that he pours the nuts on and then it walks away is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was sitting alone by myself watching that and like laughing at like 2 a.m. Like,
Okay.
Oh.
I'll give you the best bit. I'll give you the best kind of bit.
Yeah.
The best kind of bit is not when it's just like an improv. It's not when someone adds their own element out of nowhere, much like the Evil Council. I don't give a shit about the Evil Council or like the weird like fucking like special edition New Hope aliens in the foreground. What I like is when they yes and the shit that would otherwise seem like a mistake. When they take something that seems fucked up and they're like, no, we're gonna make it make sense. Such as like the bit that I like the most. One of the bits I like the most is there's a scene where Betty's talking to somebody and it's just bad production because the dude's shirt keeps changing from black to red.
It's red.
But they justify it with Betty being like, I'm a magician. Your shirt is red now. And like, of course the shirt is red. You yes
like
and it, make it make sense. That's my other example was the ventriloquist, which you don't need to like justify why two dudes aren't saying anything. That being said, to like take a scene that is like a shot that doesn't need to be nearly that long of two dudes walking down a courtyard and to be like, this fucking sucks. Let's make them talk. But their mouths aren't moving. Well, how about their ventriloquist? Those are my favorite bits. The bits that yes and what's already there instead of adding shit. You know what I mean?
I think the bit that should not have made me laugh, but I stupidly fell for it every time, was the butterfly flying to the old man's mouth.
The fact that that guy is just so sick is very funny.
He's so sick, and like there's always the world's tiniest butterfly that just flies into his mouth and he reacts to it. Just it's so subtle, but just and no one talks about it. It's just like no one's like, trying to get rid of the fly.
He just makes like a coughing face regularly. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
This has been Kung Pao Into the Fist on Beard Bros Movie Reviews. Tune in next time for, I don't know, maybe something that we'll actually argue about instead of all kind of feel the same way about it.
I give it a 4 out of 5 CG udders.
I give it a 3.75 out of 5.
I give it a 3 years between every one of my viewings of this movie.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.
Kill that man.
No.
Why not?
I can just take an elevator.
Wackity
It used to be Wackity Sacks.
Wackity
Wackity sack, wackity sack.